Hello there, everybody, and welcome back to Buckeye Politics. It's me, your favorite Ohioan. So the winner of yesterday's contests was Braden Daly, or Braden Daly. Not sure how it's pronounced, but thank you for being a loyal fan of my channel. Thank you for commenting the scenario. Go subscribe to him. Link to his channel will be in the pinned comment. So he suggested a race between liberal Republican governor of Vermont, Phil Scott, and conservative Democrat governor of Louisiana, John Bel Edwards. So this would actually be a very interesting race, conservative Democrat versus a liberal Republican. So this is a race that I did expect to see something like this pop up, and this is a race that I kind of did expect. I'll be honest, this race to pop up eventually between these two, not necessarily John Bel Edwards and Phil Scott, but a conservative Democrat and a liberal Republican. So with that, these are I think these are going to be the safe states for each side. They should be pretty self-explanatory. The thing about this map would actually be that the Democrats and Republicans would kind of flip places a little bit. Phil Scott would make some big inroads with suburban voters and even inner city voters a little bit, while John Bel Edwards would do very well with rural voters. I just don't think there would be a huge flip. I think that the rurals would still vote Republican, and the inner cities and suburbs would still, well, the inner cities at least would still vote Democrat. Suburbs would probably go narrowly Republican, but the rurals will definitely narrow up a little bit because of John Bel Edwards' appeal to them. So these are the safe states for either side. The Northeast, the reason these three states are going to be likely is because of Phil Scott's Northeastern appeal. These three states are much closer than the rest of the Northeast, so that's why I think Phil Scott will make them likely. Not by much, but they'll still be likely. I also think the states of Oregon, Minnesota, and New Mexico will be likely for the John Bel Edwards, mostly because of his strength in the John Bel Edwards would gain a lot of ground in Minnesota with rural voters, and while also doing decent in Minneapolis. Well, Minneapolis is going to be such a hard state to trend in this election. Who knows which way it'll trend, but it will definitely trend. But it will definitely go to this whole state will go to John Bel Edwards because the rural areas will definitely trend Democrat, and I don't think Phil Scott's going to be able to make enough ground in the suburbs and inner city to undo that. New Mexico, similar story. It's already a pretty solid Democrat state, and if anything, Phil Scott would underperform Trump because of John Bel Edwards making him ground with conservative Hispanics. Oregon, similar story. A lot of people in Portland actually kind of like Phil Scott. A lot of Portland liberals like Phil Scott, so I think he would do decently in Oregon, make it likely, not super competitive, but it'd be much closer than in 2020. The likely states for Phil Scott include states of Montana, Missouri, Texas, South Carolina, Indiana, and Alaska. These are all states that are, pretty solid for the GOP. I mean, they're not. They would definitely get a little bit closer because of John Bel Edwards' rural appeal. But really, these states are so solid for the GOP now that they're not really going to go anywhere. Are they going to get closer? Yes. But are they going to go Democrat? No, even with a conservative Democrat in the ticket. Now, the lean states for John Bel Edwards include the states of Iowa, Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, Colorado, Nevada, and Maine's 2nd District. It's a lot, I know. Excuse me. But the reason Nevada would go blue is because John Bel Edwards would make up a lot of ground the Republicans are gaining with the white working class and the Hispanic working class in Las Vegas that is trending Republican. John Bel Edwards would undo those trends, making Nevada stay blue. Colorado, a lot of the college-educated suburbanites in Colorado, they would probably trend heavily to Phil Scott, but we're so polarized that it wouldn't go too far to the Republicans, so it would be much closer, but John Bel Edwards would still pull off a win there. Iowa and Ohio and the entire upper Midwest and Rust Belt is a place where John Bel Edwards would do very well for Democrats, especially. It's a very Republican trending part of the country, and so John Bel Edwards, being a conservative rural Democrat, he would actually make up a lot of ground in places like the Driftless area of Iowa and Wisconsin, the Mahoning Valley in Ohio, the white working class parts of Michigan, the northern parts of Philadelphia, and by the Pittsburgh area that are very much oil and white working class places. Those are places that are traditionally ancestrally Democrat that are swinging to Trump, making all these states more competitive. So John Bel Edwards would make up a lot of ground with those voters and make all these states lean to him. And Virginia, well, the Virginia would narrow up because of Phil Scott's appeal to that part of the country. I don't. We're like I said, we're so polarized that John Bel Edwards would probably win it by about 3 points, similar to Mitt Romney in 2012. The lean states for Phil Scott include the states of Florida and New Hampshire. These are two states that are, well, Florida at least is a Republican trending state, and so while it would be if John Bel Edwards would undo a lot of those Republican leaning trends, it would still narrowly go to Phil Scott. A similar story with New Hampshire. Although Phil Scott would do very well in New Hampshire because New Hampshire is a much more liberal state. I mean, conservative state compared to the rest of the Northeast. It very narrowly went to Clinton in 2016. Trump almost won it. And New Hampshire was a state that would go to Phil Scott, mostly because of Phil Scott's moderate and libertarian-esque stances on social issues, and also him being from that part of the region. The tilt state for Phil Scott includes states of Arizona, while I believe the states of North Carolina and Georgia will tilt to John Bel Edwards. North Carolina will tilt to John Bel Edwards mostly because of the rural parts of North Carolina that are really the only thing keeping the state Republican, other than some decent margins in the suburbs. In North Carolina, their Democrats do have a lot of support in the rural parts of North Carolina. It's slowly but surely going more Republican, but the rurals do have a decent amount of Democrat support. And with John Bel Edwards being a conservative Democrat from the South, I do think John Bel Edwards would do very well in the rurals of North Carolina, hold his own in the suburbs and inner city, and flip the state of North Carolina. Georgia, similar story. Well, Phil Scott would make up some ground in the Atlanta suburbs. I think that the rurals would just trend heavy to John Bel Edwards because he's from that part of the country, and if Georgia would tilt to John Bel Edwards. Arizona Arizona would definitely go to Phil Scott because of a lot of the white working class, not white working class, the college-educated whites in the Phoenix, Maricopa County area. A lot of them are still very much right-leaning, still Republicans. They just really didn't like Trump all that much. So Phil Scott, being a more, I guess you could say, generic Republican, he's a liberal Republican, but he's he appeals to that part of the country and that part of that Republican base much more than Trump did, and even with Trump really not appealing to that part of the base, Trump only very narrowly lost Arizona. So that's why I think Phil Scott will very narrowly flip the state of Arizona back. Nebraska 2nd District, I do believe, will tilt to Phil Scott. Phil Scott has a lot of suburban appeal, and Nebraska's 2nd District is not fully gone for the GOP. Well, it pretty much is, but in a complete red wave year, I think the GOP could flip it, or if they just run the right candidate, and I think Phil Scott will be the right candidate for Nebraska's 2nd District in the suburbs. Would he do good anywhere else? Absolutely not. As you can see, Phil Scott will get blown out of the water, especially against a conservative Democrat, but in Nebraska's 2nd District, at least he'd be a decent candidate, especially against a much more conservative Democrat. So with that, this is the 2024 election prediction between Phil Scott and John Bel Edwards. Please be sure to like and subscribe and comment your scenarios for tomorrow.